Hey everybody, Craig here from Ridge Plumber. And as you can see by the weather out here, it's getting cold, so that puts hot water at a premium. What we're going to teach you today is how to install a 50-gallon natural gas hot water tank without soldering. So we'll start by pulling her out of here and getting her into place. So here we are in the mechanical room. Here's the existing tank. To take this out, there's a few easy steps, and they are easy, but they are mandatory to do this correctly. First thing we'll want to do is we want to shut off the gas to the tank right away, first thing. Second thing we want to do is we want to drain the tank before we move it, because a full tank is 400 or 500 pounds heavy. An empty tank is a whole lot easier to move on our dolly. So what we'll do, I have just a little piece of hose here, but whatever, just any garden hose. On the bottom of every hot water tank is what's called a sediment tap. What this tap does is all the rust and crud from the inside of a tank, it drops down to there rather than being inside and messing with your domestic water. So what we need to do is we need to drain it from there, but before we drain it, because of all that crud, a lot of times it can build up. And if we don't apply some pressure to it, it might never blow out, and then you're looking at a heavy tank that won't drain. So take a little hose, we'll just put it on to our sediment tap, take the other end and put it into the pan drain or the floor drain, whatever. You'll have a drain of some sort there. And if not, just get a longer hose and run it outside, because there will be enough pressure. The head pressure as this pushes down will push the water away. Okay, so next thing you want to do, like I said, is to get this emptied out before we shut everything off. We want to keep this open. Now we're going to open this up. Sometimes you can get a screwdriver on there. Not in this case, we need a little pair of pliers, but that's all right. So we want to open up the tap like so. The pressure is now blasting out whatever crud is there. We'll give it a little bit of an assistance by opening up a secondary air inlet to allow it to vent itself and drain. Now that we've got that going, it usually takes about an hour to drain a tank, up to. What I suggest is this is the time you get everything ready. So while it's draining, get your tools, get whatever you might need, whatever other material you might feel you're short of to get it now. As far as tools go for this job of what we're going to be doing, you're not going to need much. Like I told you, we're going to do this without soldering. Most plumbers will come in and solder because it's what we do. But if you're a homeowner and you're wanting to do this yourself, I can't expect you to know how to solder. It's something you learn in school. And so I'm going to show you how to do it without that. Once this tank starts draining, or once this tank finishes draining, then we can get started. As far as tools go for what you're going to need, you'll probably just need a couple sets of pump pliers, you know, channel locks, set of copper cutters, and that's pretty much what we're going to use to make this happen today. So when this drains, we'll get rolling. Now I'm going to have to wait for it to actually drain for a few minutes. It's almost done. She's almost done. Okay, so the tank is pretty much drained. It's almost gone, but what we'll do is we'll just kind of start getting ready while the last of the tank is draining out. So there's a couple of things we're going to need to change here as well as the tank, including the venting, which is a B vent. And we may as well start with just getting it out of our way. So what I would suggest would be coming a little farther back, than instead of just taking off the actual little hood right here, I'd say take a little bit further back. Give yourself some more room to work. Save your screws. One more. Set the side. All right. Next thing we want to do is, I know we've already shut off the water, but it's always nice to be safe and just check it again before we cut into these. So before we do that, actually, we'll do one more thing. We'll take apart the gas line. So I showed you, we already shut it off. Usually when they're plumbed like this, they give you a union. Okay, that's this part right here. And it enables you to take it apart without having to twist this big pipe all around. Okay, so we'll take it off first. So now a little trick when you're taking apart a gas line, a lot of times they're put in there with like a pipe dope that makes them really tight and really hard. And if the gas fitter was strong, he'll back wrench on it to make it in tight. Now, what works really well is if you actually try to tighten it first before you loosen it, it's actually easier to crack that seal tightening it than it is loosening it. And then once you do that, it'll peel back. It's very similar to when you're trying to open a jar. You give it that little tap on the counter. It releases that little bit of pressure. This works really well the same. Now, we're not necessarily going to reuse a lot of these parts, but I think it's best that while it's draining, to just take off every part. Because when we reconfigure this back together, a lot of times the diameter is different on the new tank, the height might be different, all sorts of things are different. And if you just have everything at accessibility or accessible to yourself, your life will be a whole lot easier. So this tank, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's gurgling, and that's a really good sign. It means that it's very close to being empty. So what we're going to do next is we're going to cut the two lines right here. This is our cold line, our hot line. The valve that goes in comes in on the cold line. What it does is it actually is called the hot water valve because it doesn't control the hot water to the house, but it controls the cold water into the tank before it becomes hot water and then goes out. So that's why you only need to shut off the one valve when you're doing a hot water tank, not the actual main of your house. So just get your copper cutters on there, your tube cutters, and give yourself a nice bit of meat on each side, right? You don't want to ever cut it too close to a fitting because today we're going to be reusing these. So we want to make sure that they're in as good a shape as possible and with as much meat, like I said, because the next tank going on is going to be taller. So there is going to be a little bit of a reconfiguration here. Don't be scared if you hear any noises. Because your water's off, the only noise you're going to hear is air pressure. So if a little bit squeaks out, it's okay. No reason to panic at all. Just got to keep tightening it as you go, little by little. And you can tell this copper is not very old because the wall thickness is still nice and thick, creating a little longer for us to cut through it, but as the homeowner, that's a good thing for you. Okay, you can see these are both unattached now. Our hot water tank is nearly ready to be yanked out of here. What I would suggest doing though before we take it out of here is these two guys here, they're called FIPs. They're connected to the hot water and cold water inlet outlet. We want to reuse them on our new tank. So rather than mucking around when we get out of here, we've got a good workspace. I would suggest we take them off now. So we will. One. They're on pretty tight sometimes. This time, okay, so this is a good example of what I can show you here. So the cold water, where it's hooked into, there is a tube that goes down into the tank. And this tube is, it's called a sacrificial anode. It's made of magnesium, and what it's for, it's there to rust on purpose so that the elements inside the tank don't rust. Well, what can happen is sometimes when it gets tightened on really tight, it can be attached. So to take the whole thing apart, it would be like this huge to-do to pull out a 5-foot piece. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna back wrench on it so that we can get it out of here without bringing the other piece with it. And there we have it. Okay, so we've removed the old tank, put in the new one. I didn't bore you with the visuals of that because we're just dollying stuff around. But now we're back to work. So what you need now is Teflon tape, okay? Cheap. It's probably 50 cents for this little guy here. What we want to do is anytime you have a metal connection on anything, so from metal to metal, whether it's copper, brass, stainless steel, it doesn't matter. You need something between it to prevent the leakage, okay? Because water will not stay tight on metal to metal. It'll continue to move. So when you're putting on your Teflon, you want to go around 4 times. That's the magic number. And clockwise, so that when we put on our fittings, they don't peel back the Teflon. Instead, they flow with it to make it work properly. Okay? So we've got those off now. They're on. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put on the 2 pieces that we took off. Okay? Easy to figure it out which one goes with which. You can see that pipe matches that, and that pipe matches that. So we'll do the same thing to make it look nice. So give it a little clean off at the bottom here. There might be a little bit of crud in there, so you can just bang it out. Put it on hand tight just to start. Get it on there as tight as you can with your hands. Both of them. Okay, once they're on, grab your pump pliers. Get it nice and tight. This side of this guy. Okay, next, we want to connect these. So this is the fancy part where I was telling you that we don't need to do any soldering, okay? And this is copper to copper, obviously. So we need to connect them somehow and have it watertight. There is this product, not that I'm here shopping them for you or anything, but they're called shark bites. And this is a shark bite coupling. And it's a push fit mechanism, essentially, that will keep water tight, but enables you, the homeowner, to not have to solder it. Now, the one key with these is they come with a plastic insert, okay? That insert's great, but it's not meant for copper. So get a pair of needle nose, just clamp it in there and pull it out, okay? It comes out that easy. Make sure there's no little pieces left in there. Get both sides. And now you're ready to use these. So because the height is different now, as you can see, right? So we've got a good offset of quite a bit here. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to shorten this a little bit, and then we can shorten this so we have less leverage being pushed onto these other pipes, okay? Okay, so like I showed you, what we're going to do is we want to connect these two pipes. So a good way to do that is, you know, if you kind of look at it like this, take anything. I can score it with the back of my copper cutters, but just right across. And we can see where to cut so that we don't make that silly mistake of cutting off just a wee bit too much. Because life really is a game of inches, especially when you need one. Remember to save your copper, recycling. Okay, another piece. Now, the shark bite couplings that we prepared, okay? So they've got something of a line of an engagement on here, which lets you know how far the pipe is going to go in when it stops. It actually goes into about the middle, okay? So they meet very, very close. So we cut these on the same line. There's enough play for them to work, but it's very, very close. So what you do is you just put it on nice and easy like that, and then push it down hard. You'll feel the engagement. You really will. You'll hear it, feel it. It'll really suck it right in there. And once you've got it in, you'll notice you cannot pull it up. You can turn it, that's fine, but you cannot pull it off of there, okay? So we'll do the same thing to the cold inlet side. Push it in, good insertion. Now, same thing with our other pipes, okay? So we want this in here, so we want to line it up and insert it in, okay? Boom, in. Next one, same go. Up, line it up, boom, in, okay? Tank, in, no soldering. Now, what we have left to do still, of course, is set up our gas and our flue vent, okay? So what we'll do is we'll do the vent first, because then it gets us kind of done from the upper area, and then I'll show you the gas. So you remember, we took our vent off. Well, as we can see here, it's also a little higher. Just like we took off a little bit of copper, we're going to also need to take off a little bit of this. This is where you might need one more tool, tin snips, okay? So what we'll do is we'll remove this part here, and then we're going to cut some of it off so that it all lines up perfectly again, okay? Just go back in. Okay, got that back on. All right, now go like this. And just see how close we are. So if we wanted to come like that, you're looking probably right around here. All we've got left now, we've got our vent hooked back up, we've got our water lines hooked up. All that's left now is the gas. So what we're going to do is, instead of using the black iron piping, we're going to get one of these. This is a braided gas line. You can pick it up at any Home Depot, Rona, hardware store, anywhere. And what it enables you to do is, rather than having to repipe it in with black iron pipe, which is you know, for a non-plumber, pretty tough to work around. Well, this gives us that slack we need to make it happen. Okay, so this here is the gas valve. This is what the gas main runs into to allow gas to get you hot water. So we're gonna put this 90 back on that we took off. Remember, like I told you before, any metal on metal, we wanna wrap it in Teflon. So we've done that. And there's a little outlet on the side of the gas valve that you'll see. It's the only hole there. So you wanna put your gas 90 in here. Same thing, you wanna get it in nice and tight. You want that 90 coming up level, okay? It doesn't need to be perfect, like I said, because we're using a braided gas line. Okay, so we're gonna put on the braided gas line now. And as you can see, it has a rating sticker on it, which will tell you the amount of BTUs it will work for. I'll tell you right now, if you have a residential hot water tank, one of these from Home Depot is sufficient. If you are working in something more commercial, you might need a bigger one that allows more gas flow. This one will work though. So what we're gonna do is take off the two connectors. This is a flare end, this is an iron pipe end. So we are going to get our Teflon once again, and in a clockwise fashion, we're going to wrap up this end, as well as on the other end of it, there's a second one. We'll wrap it as well. 4 times around, clockwise. I'm sure you're all tired of me saying that by now. But regardless, okay, so one goes into our gas valve, like so. We always want to, it's called back wrenching. You always want to back wrench with gas, especially because of the dangerous ability that gas has. So you just put the one on, just so that you don't twist the other fittings as you're tightening in your adapter here. Okay, one in, our other one will go in here on the 90 that we put onto our gas valve. Now, these are flare fittings that are now poking out, and you want to be really careful to not get the teeth of your pliers onto them. So pay attention to make sure that you're actually on the tightening surface rather than on the thread surface. Okay, so we've got them both in. Next is this guy. Now, with a flare fitting, you actually don't need Teflon. It's been made for it, especially so that it bevels its way into the pipe, okay? So what you want to do is you want to put it on hand tight, and then just that much, because that's it tight. It is made to do that, okay? And now the other side here, as you can see, we got ourselves a nice 3-foot line, which just happens to be perfect for this job. Get that on, tighten it up. Okay, so now that we've got everything hooked up, we've got our gas line hooked up, we've got our water lines hooked up, and we've got our vent hooked up, let's take it for a test drive. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the water first, okay? This is gonna allow all the cold water to start filtering into our new tank. Now, what's gonna happen is this tank is full of air right now. So as this water pushes in, it needs to push that air somewhere. So 2 things you can do. One, to give yourself some time, you can open up the side temperature pressure relief valve. That'll push out a lot of air as the water's coming up. That being said, this obviously shows about 10% of the tank of the air that's below this, so it's gonna need somewhere to go. What I would suggest would be to go to any of the taps in your house, closest one obviously would be the best, and open up the hot water side of either the bathtub or the sink. That will push all that air out of there to allow this water to fill it and pressurize the system correctly, okay? Next, we're gonna turn the gas on as this is filling. Okay, so our tank is filling with water right now. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's filling with water. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna open the gas valve. Easy, 1/4 turn ball valve. We open it up. Gas is now flowing into the valve. Now, for a non-experienced gas fitter or someone doing this, I would suggest maybe getting some soapy water and just spray it on the connections that you made. If there is any leak whatsoever, you will see it bubble, and then you'll know to tighten it. Myself, I have a trained nose, and I have a pretty good idea that I put these on tight, so we're gonna skip that as far as our video is concerned, but just something for you to heed. Okay, so our tank is filling, our gas is on, we have no leaks. So all we have left to do before this job is complete is to light the pilot light to allow the water to get hot from the boiler. Okay, so last thing, lighting the pilot. So down here below the gas valve is our access door to our burner. There's a tiny window on it that if you get down low, you can look in there to have a look. Now, what you're gonna wanna do is, I suggest getting down here and having a look. Get your eye to it, maybe turn the light out so that you can push your pilot igniter button to see that there is a spark before you drive yourself crazy wondering why it's not lighting. So you get down, have a look, you can push this button, you'll see the spark, okay? Especially if you're in the dark. Once it's lit, so what you're doing is then, once you know it works, you take this gas valve here and it has all these dials on it, okay? I know you can't see it from this angle, but it has dials that tells you pilot, low, hot, very hot. So we want to turn it to pilot. You'll know it's on pilot because the button will depress, okay? If it's on anything else, the button can't push in. It won't be allowed, all right? So you want to hold that in, and then the pilot igniter button is just below it. So you push this, hitting that spark over and over and over again until you'll hear this tiny little whoosh. I could hear it right now. I know you can't hear it on the camera, but you could hear that tiny little flame spark, okay? Once that's lit, you keep your finger on the button, okay? Not the sparky button, but the button that was depressed. You hold that. Now, on the gas valve, there is a status light. That status light is there to let you know when the thermocouple has become hot enough to allow the electromagnet to open to let the gas in, okay? I know those are big words, but at the end of the day, when you see the little green light start flashing, you'll know you can take your thumb off, okay? Once you've got it off, the pilot light is lit, it's sitting, it's waiting now to heat up. That's when you go back to your little dial here and you turn it to the desired heat you want. I suggest going between hot and very hot. If you want a little hotter, you can make it a little hotter. So now that you've got that on, you can hear it when you turn the burner on. Same thing, you'll know these are really, really significant things that you'll hear immediately. There's no mistaking it. So now we've got that lit, we put our panel door back on the bottom here, okay? You can see everything. Everything is now done. The last thing I would suggest after all this is done is one thing, a Jiffy marker. All you gotta do is put the date of installation. Today is December 5th, 2016. Now you know when someone asks you in 5, 10 years, how old's my hot water tank? Why isn't it working? It at least tells you when you installed it. Not when it was made, but when it was installed. That's how you'll figure out your warranty, okay? So that's it. I hope it works. Watch the video over. If you got any questions or any comments, if I can make this any better, please let me know. I'd love to be able to help. Thanks.